I've given talks, lectures. I'm a physician. I have a master's in medical ethics. I've given talks to 1,000 people before. I've gotten honors and awards from my lectures. And I got to tell you that preparing this was probably the hardest thing I've ever done. So I'm not quite sure what I'm going to say. I'm hoping Tim will give me some intercession, and I will be able to give you kind of a look into Tim's life and the kind of person that he was. Like Chris said, he was an amazing person, was an expert at anything that he tried to do. And that wasn't just by natural ability, but just by force of will. I was pretty successful in my life. I'm a attending physician in emergency medicine for 25 years. I've got a master's in medical ethics. I was the first emergency physician in the country with a degree like that. I went to Georgetown University for both of those degrees. I've been a successful part of a medical practice again for the last 25 years. Martial artist, state champion in 3 different sports, married for 25 years, 6 kids. And on all those things, Tim pushed me to be better because he was better at me than almost everything we ever did. And I tried my whole life to be better. The only thing that I was better than him at was, number 1, ice hockey, and number 2 was sporting the can. The guy would just go straight to burn. So I got him there. The other thing was, actually talking to Sophie yesterday, it reminded me, I was better than him in French. So he was pretty much a straight A student in college, but for whatever reason, he couldn't figure out French. So he took it pass-fail, and I think our sophomore year, he got a 4.0, but he'd failed French. So we would tease him. Part of the exam was being able to recite and talk about Le Petit Prince, the Little Prince. So we would come back from the bar and we would be singing to him, Le Petit Prince, le cheveux blancs, tout connaît le crête de menthe, and it drove him nuts because it said, the little prince with the blonde hair, you know the secrets of the world. And he was like, what does that even mean? So over the course of our friendship, we met in 8th grade. We sat alphabetically, so it was Steph and Thews, and that's the way it was for our whole lives. We were always together. One of the things that impressed me was he could do something called bleaking, which I didn't even know it had a name. But he could shoot a spray of saliva out of his mouth with precision accuracy. So we'd be in math class, and I'd say, do you think you can hit that other desk? He hit it. Do you think you can draw a question mark on the back of John Krasinski over there? He's like, question mark. I was like, I love this guy. This is the greatest guy. He is me. So I was a shy kid from Detroit. I moved to the pretty upscale suburb of Bloomfield Hills, didn't know a lot of people, really introverted. And Tim was this extroverted kid from Chicago, but he told everybody he was from Detroit. And so we talked, and it ended up that his family moved out of Detroit from Kentfield, and he always said, I'm from Kentfield. It was a block over from where I lived in Detroit. He moved out, I think we figured out we lived there at the same time for about a month. Time his family left, we came in. But he was always a Detroit kid, and very proud of that. So one of the lessons that Tim taught me that I think you guys need to understand is to be exceptional, sometimes you gotta do things that are a little bit goofy. So I remember he bought a medicine ball and was talking about how he was using it at work. I said, you take a medicine ball to work? He's like, yeah, when I'm at work and I'm on the phone, I'm holding it out over my head, or I'll do one-handed push-ups on it, or I'll throw it up in the air. You gotta get a lot of this passive exercising. I'm like, that's crazy. So I'm an emergency physician. I'm on my feet all the time. I'm running rounds. I gotta try to see if I get some passive exercising. I started wearing ankle weights to work. 5 pounds, then 7, then 10. And I walk with a little bit of a limp, but it's way better than it would have been without that. All that passive exercising stuff is because of Tim. And people at work will tell you it's funny because they would see me wearing ankle weights. They say, what are you doing? I'm like, they're 10 pounders. I'm a 50-year-old guy. I gotta do this passive exercise, which is what my buddy showed me to do. Sometimes to be exceptional, you gotta do things that are really goofy. I'd have big weightlifters try to wear them for a half an hour on shift, and they just couldn't do it. And all that stuff was because of Tim. It was incredible strength. He would do things like, we were, of course, scuba divers. So I got my certificate in scuba diving. Tim got his certificate in scuba diving. And of course, had to become a master scuba diver. So we would go scuba diving in like Lake Michigan. Fresh water, not a lot to see. Tim said, well, there's not a lot to see. Let's go at night. The water temperature's 54 degrees. Yeah, but we've got a 12-foot inflatable boat. What could possibly go wrong? We were up at his cottage, and his dad said, you guys are going scuba diving at night, 54-degree water. Sounds good all right. So Mr. Steffen drove. And it was one of the coolest dives ever. I can't explain why, but it was just incredibly peaceful, a lot of laughs, and we still talk about that day. We grew up together in martial arts. Of course, Tim, again, always better than me. We competed actually in the state championship for Michigan, which was a qualifier for nationals. So Tim didn't care about rank, so he never made his black belt early on when we were competing. So I actually had to give him my black belt. It was just straight out of Karate Kid. I had to like sneak it to him. But our coach was the Pan Am gold medalist. He was an Olympic bronze medalist. He was a future Olympic coach. And so he was okay with that because he knew Tim was good enough. He couldn't fight in his division. You have to fight with black belts. So we went through the fighting together. We're going through, I'm winning, he's winning, and it looks like we're going to meet up in the final match. Tim fought the biggest guy in our division. We were heavyweights. And at the time, I weighed about 215. Tim probably weighed about 225. And I just remember the swagger he walked up. Other guys are like, if you ever competed in wrestling or things where you have to make weight, people are like spitting in cups and they're taking medicine to make them get rid of the extra fluid. They're wearing rubber suits so they sweat, which will come up in a later story. He walked with swagger, right, carrying his bag, walking right onto the scale, where everybody else was trying to desperately lose weight. So like that's pretty cool. I'm gonna do that too. So the last fight, he's fighting the biggest guy in our division. This guy was probably 280, maybe 6'5", and the guy is just creaming him in the first round. And the coach says, "Tim, you got to do something." Classic Tim fashion. He stepped away, brought his foot up and down, landed right on the guy's nose. Not to be too graphic, but blood everywhere. And the guy couldn't continue to fight. So we were supposed to fight in the final round. So the coach comes running over and says, no. You guys will kill each other. You guys, if you place, then you get to qualify for nationals. I don't want my athletes killing each other. So Tim had to actually bow out to me because he was a low rank. And he came over and just gave me a big bear hug, lifted me up over the ground. I thought he was going to throw me on my head. He just gave me a big hug. And it was still to this day one of the greatest members of my life. And he was always, anything that we competed in, he had to be better. Anything that he did, he threw his whole heart into. He was great at everything. Even meeting women. So I may not have the story completely right, but Tim was in Miami because of me. So again, we kind of did a lot of the same stuff together. He had a business acumen, I had a medical acumen. I was in school in DC, he was doing business in Chicago, and we talked a lot. And my experience in medical school was amazing. Like, other than Tim, the best friends I ever had during that time, the most intense times. It was just incredible. And I would tell Tim these stories, and he was physically based, physiologically based, maybe that's what I want to do. So we talked more and more, and it ended up that he decided he wanted to go to med school. Of course, he applied and got into what's called the post-doc program down at the University of Miami, where you actually do all of your requirements in 1 year and you're automatically accepted to med school. So he moves down to Miami and starts medical school. And within a couple months realized this is not for him. He's a banker at heart. So he dropped out and started working on Brickell Avenue. So at that time I was in grad school. So after 3 years of medical school, grad school was really easy. I was taking class Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I was going down to Florida on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and hanging out with Tim. So we had what was called our last hurrah. So at different points in our life, we said, well, this is probably gonna be the last time we get together. This is our last hurrah. So after high school, it was, this is really our last hurrah. And then we ended up rooming together in college at the end of freshman year. Well, this is our last hurrah. Last time we're gonna be able to party like this. And then we were going to different fraternities, and then back together again. We were living together our senior year. Definitely our last hurrah. This is it. And then it just became a joke that every time we were together was our last hurrah. So we were probably on about last hurrah 17 or something like that. And Tim had been dating a Hooters waitress, and he was at Coconut Grove, and I think he was on a date. I'm not 100% sure, but he ran into Laura, and they reconnected in Miami. Again, he was there because of me. And like something changed at that. Something like he went from being this guy who could date anyone, who could talk to anyone, to just focus only on Laura. And I gotta tell you, he, like everything else he did, he poured his heart and soul into your relationship. And it was amazing. Like, they had an amazing relationship for years and years. It was pictures of them traveling, pictures of them together, pictures of them at the house. And about that time I got married. Tim was my best man. I met my wife with him on one of our last hurrahs. I think it was last hurrah 29 or something. And I was always jealous. When we got married, we had 2 kids. I had a bet with myself that I would not do this, but my wife said 100% we're gonna break down, start crying. So here it is. But I was always jealous of that. You know, Tim poured himself in the relationship. You guys had an amazing friendship. There was 2 things that Tim and I never talked about in all of our friendship. Number 1 was kids, and number 2 was faith. So I think one of the times we were up north at Tim and Laura's cottage, we had brought our youngest daughter Lucy, who was in the car seat, and I said, Tim, don't you, this is great, like kids are wonderful. He's like, yeah, they're wonderful. He's like, you got a dog. And he said, and you know, we travel a lot, and I just know that if I had a baby, I'd leave him in baggage claim. I'd forget him. I'd be in the car, and I'd be like, what'd you do with the kid? I left him in baggage claim. So, and that's what he thought. He was the guy who said, those kids, they're so loud on the airplane, or I can't enjoy my $700 bottle of wine because the kid's crying behind me. Well, then they had Ray. And within a year, and I deny this, he was the guy saying, so bad looked at me because Reagan was crying. I was going to come out of my seat tears hell. He was that guy. So, and he, just like with everything else he did, he poured himself into being an amazing dad. And I got to tell you, my kids are amazing, but I'm not the father he is. Everything that he did was about them. Our videos were, and messages were not about his accomplishments anymore, who he'd beaten in martial arts, or how much he lifted, or how far he ran, but it was all about his kids. And there was nothing he took more joy in than your guys' accomplishments. So, the other thing that we never talked about was faith. So I was a pretty conservative Catholic, went to church every week, do medical missions in foreign countries every year. I've lectured on Catholic medical ethics, and it was just not a subject that Tim was interested in talking about, ever. So we didn't talk about it. But I prayed for him a lot, that he would find faith. For 40 years ago. And then, about, I think probably a year ago, he said, I found this church. And I started going to church, and it's amazing. We started talking about Jesus and God, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's turning into a Jesus church. I love it. Texas Christians did in a couple months what I couldn't do in 40 years of praying. And like everything else, I could see that it really became central to his life, and that he was a master of his faith. And I can't help but wondering if that's not why God took him, because he'd done everything. He was a champion in multiple sports. He was an incredible musician. He was a great dad. He was an amazing husband. And now he's a Christian? Like, how can you top that? Oh yeah, a pretty successful banker too. So, July 4th morning, Laura, I'm out on my boat talking to my brother. My cell phone rings, it's Laura Stephan. I said, that idiot lost his cell phone, just called me from Laura's phone. And then the phone rings again. And Laura told me what had happened. And she said, Tim collapsed, his head was shaking, and they're taking him to the hospital. Can you pray for him? So I knelt down on my boat to pray. I couldn't pray. It wouldn't come. Tim spoke to me like, I'm talking to you. He's happy. He said, I'm already gone. He said, you're not gone. You're just having an out-of-body experience. Get back in there. You just had a seizure or something. No, Jeff, I'm gone. And I knew what had come. So people who don't have an understanding of the supernatural might not believe that, or find it hard to believe, but those of us who have faith know that it's real. It's not something that's artificial. It's all around us all the time. Tim's all around us all the time, even now. I keep asking myself, why did this happen? But then I realize Tim's giving me the answer. He used to work out in a rubber suit in 100-degree heat with a push mower. He's like, Jeff, this is your rubber suit. He's like, I don't wear the rubber suit to look cool, obviously. I'm doing this to be stronger. He's given me this to be stronger, to help me come closer to God, to appreciate my family, to appreciate my friendships. I said to my sister, because we were all up north together, I said, I don't have a best friend. And my sister said off the cuff, Timo's got to be your best friend. Try to make that happen. There was a homily last week in church where the story was of the Good Samaritan, which is supposed to be about helping people. And it's about someone who's wounded, and the Samaritan helps them out. And it's usually about how you go out of your way to help someone else. And the priest in the homily, though, didn't talk about the Good Samaritan. He talked about the wounded guy. He said, look, we're all wounded. He said, you need to take your wounds, put them on the altar, and offer them up to Christ. It's exactly what I needed to hear. And that's what I'm going to try to do. For TCM Reagan, your dad was a superhero. He would have laid down his life for you guys. I think that's what he's doing now. He is always going to be protecting you. Anything that you need, any doubts that you have, he will intercede for you, I promise. Because that's who he was. He made all of us better just by knowing us. He would push us. He's going to keep pushing us. If you guys need anything, or if you need that, he's in there for you guys. We love you. I love you, Tim.